You have no idea how close you are to becoming everything you were meant to be. The battles that nearly broke you were never endings. They were awakenings. This is the moment your spirit remembers its power, when striving ceases and peace begins to lead. Listen closely. Your transformation has already started. You have walked paths where expectation dimmed and the weight of what was felt inescapable. You know the heaviness in your chest, the slow tightening behind your ribs that made every step a measured thing. For a long season you learned the rhythms of endurance, how to push through the hours, how to keep a face that answered demand, how to convince yourself that perseverance equaled worth. Those patterns became second nature, a default choreography of rising early, smoothing words, swallowing doubt. Listen now as one who speaks with tenderness and authority draws close. Hear the invitation that bends not toward urgency, but toward a stillness that reveals. You are being reminded that the cycles you learned to survive were never meant to be permanent. They served a function, to teach endurance, to sharpen compassion, to reveal places needing light. But they also left impressions that can masquerade as truths, like you must strive to be noticed, that your value is earned through visible effort. There is a shift already at work within you, whether you have named it or simply felt its gentle pressure. It moves not by your force, but by a quiet reordering of the heart. You can sense it in small things, in how a morning once filled with the dread now holds a margin of calm, and how a decision that used to spark panic now arrives with a steadying pause. These moments are not coincidences. They are evidence that something has stepped into the space where fear and frenzy once sat. Do not mistake the stillness for passivity, nor the ease for indifference. This is not an instruction to stop caring, but to cease letting the past's pressure determine your motion. The old cycles taught you to measure life by output, by the length of your to-do list, by others' applause, by the absence of visible cracks. Now you are learning a new metric. Presence. Presence is not performance. It is the posture of one who knows they are held. From this posture, your actions come from a rooted center. You may notice resistance rise when you consider laying down certain burdens. Part of you may reason that dropping a familiar load risks losing identity. If you have always been the one who carried, who fixed, who stayed late, letting go can feel like betrayal to the version of you that earned survival by sweat. That fear is understandable. But what if identity is not found in the weight you bear, but in the life you were created to inhabit? There will be moments where the memory of old cycles will try to speak louder than the present truth. A familiar voice might remind you of scarcity, a previous failure, a criticism that once set your direction. When those memories arrive, do not entertain them as authorities. Instead, treat them like echoes in a large hall. Let them pass, noticing their origin but refusing to be guided by their momentum. You are learning to distinguish between what is real now and what is replayed from a videotape of you. Allow compassion for yourself to be part of this process. You did what you could with what you had. You housed the best of your intention even when your methods were exhausted. Compassion is not a luxury, it is a necessary companion. As you gently disentangle from worn grooves, remind yourself of the evidence of growth, the choices you now hesitate to make, the boundaries you finally establish, the small reorientations towards joy rather than mere functioning. Notice, too, that this movement is not solitary. There is a presence accompanying you, a steadying influence that has been working beneath the surface of your effort. It will not erase memory or manufacture instant perfection, but it will realign the heart's compass. When you open to that presence, the old cycles lose their gravitational pull. Opportunities begin to surface not because you have chased them, but because the ground beneath your feet has changed. So, step carefully but confidently into this newness. Keep company with the quiet indications of change. A decision that no longer tightens your gut. A morning that holds permission to breathe. A conversation where you no longer seek to prove. Celebrate the small freedoms as signposts of a deeper liberation. Let the memory of old cycles inform your compassion. but do not allow it to dictate your next steps. You are not the person bound to that former tempo. Breathe in the possibility. Let the realization settle. You have been carried through seasons meant to shape you, not to imprison you. The scars remain as testimony, not as shackles. In the soft spaces between obligation and desire, you will learn to abide, and in abiding you will find the rhythm that was meant for you all along. This first step is simply noticing, naming the old cycles, feeling the shift, and deciding quietly and resolutely to walk by the new compass set within. You will sometimes stumble. That is part of honest terrain. Change is not a straight line, but a spiral of progress. When an old habit reappears, do not treat it as failure, but as an invitation to practice the new way again. Each gentle correction strengthens the pathway of rest. Speak to yourself with patience, as you would to someone you love. And remember that small recoveries are signs of progress, not proof of weakness. Make space for rhythms that nurture you. Sleep when your body asks. Eat with attention, and allow pockets of quiet that are not preparation for productivity but acts of restoration. Let your schedule hold margin, not just tasks. These practices are not indulgence, they become the scaffolding of sustainable change. As you protect these rhythms, your decisions calm, relationships deepen, and creativity returns with less demand for performance. Practice gratitude with honesty. Name small mercies aloud. An uninterrupted cup of coffee, a consoling phrase, a moment of clarity. These acknowledgments do more than brighten a day. They train your attention toward steady kindness. Over time, gratitude reveals the presence that has been accompanying you and becomes a lever of freedom. Keep walking. Keep noticing. The old cycles are losing their hold. The new compass is practical, one step, one breath, one kind decision at a time. The quiet liberation begins not with a dramatic breakthrough, but with a soft realization that you no longer have to strive for what has already been placed within you. You may not have noticed it at first, how the edges of your inner world have softened, how you wake with less urgency to prove, how the tension in your chest eases even when circumstances remain imperfect. This is how true freedom often enters, quietly, without announcement. Like dawn light spilling across a darkened room. You once believed liberation would look like escape, a sudden deliverance from difficulty, a visible reward for persistence. But this new freedom asks nothing of your performance. It simply invites your surrender. It whispers that peace is not the absence of responsibility, but the presence of trust. There is a deep calm unfolding now, a calm that does not depend on success or failure, praise or silence. It is the stillness that comes when you stop measuring your worth by movement. You may find this unsettling at first. To rest can feel unnatural when your value has long been tied to striving. Yet this stillness is not idleness. It is fertile ground. When the soul ceases to wrestle, it can finally hear. You are beginning to hear faintly at first, then more distinctly the gentle rhythm of divine alignment. You are realizing that you do not have to chase what was always meant to meet you on your path. The opportunities that are truly yours will recognize your presence. They will unfold before you without force, like a flower opening in its season. This is the quiet liberation, the end of frantic reaching. You are being realigned to a deeper current, one that moves beneath surface ambition. As you let go of the compulsion to control outcomes, your energy shifts from exhaustion to expectancy. You start to see beauty in ordinary spaces. A conversation that once would have drained you now brings life. A delay that used to irritate you becomes a pause rich with meaning. This is the sign that divine alignment has begun to guide your steps. And as it does, you start to notice how life reorganizes itself around peace. The people who misunderstand your gentleness begin to drift away. Those who resonate with quiet strength start to appear. You no longer chase validation from those unable to see you. Your circle may grow smaller, but your spirit grows vast. You start to realize that not every door is meant to be opened, and not every invitation requires your acceptance. Discernment begins to feel natural, almost effortless. you simply know. It is from this knowing that your new pace emerges. You move slower now, but with clarity. You speak less, but your words carry weight. You no longer rehearse your identity through constant proving. Instead, your confidence comes from the still assurance that you are being led. What once required striving now flows from alignment. The divine has taken your frantic motion and replaced it with grace. And yet, this grace is not fragile. It will not collapse under pressure. The quiet liberation does not mean life will never bring resistance. It means that resistance will no longer define you. When challenges arise, your response will be anchored rather than reactive. You will sense when to act and when to pause. You will discern between urgency born of fear and movement born of faith. In that discernment lies true freedom. There is a subtle magnificence in this transformation. What others thought would take years, you will see unfold in moments. Not because you forced it, but because alignment removes obstruction. The things meant for you find their way easily now, as though drawn by an invisible thread. It is not luck, it is the natural outcome of living from peace. You are learning that divine timing operates outside of human logic, that what once felt delayed was actually being perfectly prepared. Do not be surprised when new doors open without your knocking. Do not question when favor arrives unearned. This is the nature of quiet liberation. It confounds the expectation of effort and rewards the posture of trust. You will enter spaces you never pursued, welcomed not because of ambition but because of authenticity. You will find yourself invited into circles where your calm presence carries more weight than any resume ever could. That is how divine alignment works. It opens doors your striving never could have reached. You will recognize its hand not through spectacle but through peace. When you walk into a situation and sense calm settling over your spirit, when you realize that what once felt impossible now feels natural, that is your confirmation. You will know you are exactly where you are meant to be. There will be no anxiety in that knowing, only a quiet certainty, an awareness that the path has been prepared before you arrived. And as this peace deepens, others will begin to notice. They may not understand what has changed, but they will feel it. Your steadiness will speak louder than your explanation. People will honor you not for your effort, but for your ease, for the way you carry lightness even in heavy spaces. You will find that influence comes not from assertion but from presence. What once required convincing will now require only your being. Yet, even in this new recognition, your balance will remain intact. Praise will not inflate you, nor will dismissal diminish you. The quiet liberation has settled too deeply for external voices to disturb its foundation. You will no longer reach outward for validation because your peace no longer depends on being seen. You know who you are now, and that knowing anchors you. With this grounding comes wisdom. You will feel when to move, and when to wait, when to engage, and when to step back. You will not mistake noise for opportunity, nor urgency for importance. You are beginning to master the art of divine pacing, the sacred rhythm that flows between doing and being. This rhythm will carry you forward with assurance, allowing your decisions to arise not from fear of missing out, but from peace of already belonging. And that, beloved, is the essence of the quiet liberation. You no longer live to prove, you live to be. Your peace becomes your compass, your stillness your strength. You are no longer shaped by the echoes of old burdens, but by the clear resonance of divine presence. Every step you take from this place carries power, not the kind that dominates, but the kind that restores. The world may not understand it, but it will feel it. You are living now from the completeness already placed within you. There is a deep renewal taking place within you now, not the kind that demands visible proof, but the kind that quietly transforms the foundation of your being. You are beginning to understand that completeness is not something to be earned or achieved. It is something already woven into the fabric of who you are. The striving that once propelled you is giving way to stillness. The weariness that once defined your nights is being replaced by peace that does not depend on circumstance. You are learning to live not from deficiency, but from wholeness. It begins with a subtle shift in how you see yourself. Where once you measured progress by how much you could fix, now you measure it by how deeply you can rest in trust. The voice within that once insisted on doing more is growing quieter. You no longer believe you must prove your strength to deserve peace. You begin to recognize that the one who formed you has already given you everything needed for completeness. It is simply waiting to be received, not pursued. The Holy Spirit becomes your inner companion in this renewal. Not a distant concept, but a living presence moving gently within the spaces you once guarded with fear. He is not demanding or loud. He does not arrive with chaos or insistence. He comes quietly, like warmth after cold, like breath after exhaustion. He takes residence not only in moments of prayer, but in the ordinary while you work, while you walk, while you rest. His nearness becomes a steady rhythm beneath the noise of life. As you allow him to dwell within you, a transformation begins to unfold. Your reactions soften. The quick defense that used to rise in fear now gives way to listening. The impatience that once ruled your pace begins to ease. You find yourself pausing, asking silently, "Is this mine to carry?" This pause, simple as it may seem, is the sign of your inner renewal. It means you are no longer acting from old conditioning. You are acting from awareness, from union. This union is not performance, it is communion. You do not need to summon the Spirit's presence through perfect words or ritual. He is already near, already inside the spaces you once thought too fractured to hold holiness. He meets you in imperfection, in hesitation, in the places you thought unworthy of light. His intention is not to make you flawless, but to make you free, free from the burdens that told you you must strive endlessly to be enough. He teaches you that fortitude is not force. It is not about pushing harder or standing taller. True strength flows from softness, the willingness to yield, to listen, to trust. You begin to understand that the most powerful lives are not the ones filled with motion, but the ones aligned with grace. The Spirit brings clarity in the form of peace. Where confusion once swirled, calm begins to settle. The same circumstances may remain, yet you perceive them differently. Your gaze becomes steady, your steps deliberate but light. This is how living from completeness feels. You no longer chase validation in the eyes of others. You no longer seek approval in outcomes. Instead, you rest in the quiet conviction that you are already seen, already chosen, already whole. You realize that divine love was never a reward for your performance. It was the foundation beneath every breath you've taken. From this foundation, every action becomes an expression of gratitude rather than an attempt to prove worth. The renewal reaches deeper still. You start to reconnect with emotions once buried beneath endurance. You let yourself feel, not to drown in sadness, but to allow what was numbed to breathe again. The Spirit helps you reclaim this inner landscape, gently showing you that feeling is not failure. It is faith in motion. He teaches you to respond with thoughtfulness instead of reaction, to speak with intention rather than haste. You begin to see that this way of living is not weakness, it is wisdom. There will be moments when your old self tries to reassert control. It will whisper that rest is laziness, that softness invites harm, that stillness means stagnation. When these thoughts arise, listen to them, but do not obey them. They are echoes of survival, not truth. The Spirit will remind you that striving is not the same as strength. He will guide you back to the simplicity of surrender, where your worth no longer depends on how much you do, but on who you already are. You may find yourself in situations that once triggered anxiety or doubt, yet now, instead of rushing to fix or explain, you pause, you breathe, you ask for guidance, and somehow, what once overwhelmed you becomes manageable. This is not coincidence, it is evidence of the inner renewal taking root. Your calm no longer comes from control, it comes from confidence that you are guided. You begin to trust not because you understand everything, but because you know you are not alone in anything. Let this truth anchor you. The renewal within is not temporary, It is not a fleeting emotional high. It is the steady transformation of your spirit into alignment with the divine rhythm. The Holy Spirit will continue to shape your thoughts, refine your motives, and quiet your fears. His presence will become your constant companion, reminding you of who you truly are, beloved, complete, and sustained. This renewal will not isolate you. It will deepen your connections. You will start to relate to others from fullness rather than need. You will listen not to fix but to understand. You will serve not to be seen but to share the peace that sustains you. And in this way your very presence becomes a reflection of divine love. You begin to carry calm into chaotic spaces, bringing order without demand, offering light without noise. Over time, you realize that living from completeness is not passive, it is powerful. It reshapes every interaction, every decision, every response. You move through life with quiet confidence, no longer grasping for control, but allowing grace to guide your steps. You understand that you do not need to chase what is already yours. Joy, peace, belonging, purpose. These were never distant goals. They have always been the essence of your being, waiting to be recognized. So breathe deeply now, beloved. Let the renewal settle deeper still. You have walked through shadow and emerged into light. You have learned the difference between striving and surrender. You have seen how divine presence transforms even the weary corners of the soul into sanctuaries of peace. You are not merely surviving anymore. You are living wholly, freely, and from the completeness already given to you. You are entering a season of profound change, and though it may feel subtle at first, the transformation reaches deeper than you imagine. It is not a rearranging of circumstances, but a reshaping of perception, the kind of shift that alters how you move, speak, and even breathe. You begin to realize that divine renewal is not about escaping life, but about living it from a place of quiet strength. The Holy Spirit, your gentle guide, is leading you into this new rhythm, teaching you to discern what truly matters and what can be released without regret. This change begins internally, where the old reflexes once ruled. Where fear used to dictate quick responses, calm now intercedes. When pressure rises, you pause, not in hesitation but in discernment. The questions that once brought panic now draw curiosity. You start to ask, Holy Spirit, is this mine to do? Is this moment calling for action, or is it calling for peace? That small space between impulse and choice becomes sacred ground, the very place where transformation takes root. You are no longer driven by the urgency to fix everything. You've discovered that not every burden requires your intervention. There is wisdom in waiting, and you are learning to trust that waiting does not mean neglect. It means alignment, letting divine timing do what force never could. When you hold your peace, you create space for the Spirit to work in ways unseen. And in that stillness, you find a strength that no striving could ever yield. You are beginning to notice how your responses shift in real time. The same situations that once unraveled, you now meet a steady heart. This is not because life has suddenly become easy, but because you have become anchored. The Holy Spirit steadies your emotions, allowing grace to replace reaction. The noise of external demand fades beneath the clear tone of inner calm. It is not indifference that keeps you composed, it is trust. This is the heart of the profound change. You are no longer defined by external motion, but by internal alignment. Your worth is no longer tethered to productivity, and your identity no longer depends on approval. Instead, you draw confidence from the steady awareness that divine presence moves through you. You do not need to manufacture peace. You simply need to allow it. The Spirit reveals that peace is not something you visit, it is where you dwell. It may surprise you how natural this begins to feel. Tasks still await you. Responsibilities still exist, but they no longer consume your inner world. You find yourself doing the same work but with a different energy, slower, clearer, and lighter. Even when challenges arise, you sense a calm wisdom guiding you from within. You respond with discernment instead of haste, compassion instead of frustration. The pace of your life is changing, not because time has slowed, but because your soul has found its rhythm. There will still be moments that test this newfound steadiness. You may hear the echoes of old thought patterns whisper, "You're falling behind. You should be doing more." When those voices surface, pause. Remember how far you've come, how those same whispers once controlled your every decision. Yet now they merely pass through like distant wind. You are no longer enslaved to them. You are learning to recognize false urgency for what it is, noise that distracts from peace. This profound change is not meant to isolate you. It equips you to live with greater clarity among others. You become a quiet influence, the calm presence in the storm, the listener in the noise, the light in uncertainty. People may not know why they feel at ease around you, but it is because your spirit carries harmony. You are learning to embody the very peace you once searched for. And from that peace flows compassion that does not tire. The Spirit also begins to refine your boundaries. You learn that saying no is not unkind, it is sacred. Protecting your peace is not selfish, it is stewardship. You realize that what you allow into your space shapes your energy, and what you release creates room for grace to enter. You are being taught that rest is not laziness, it is respect for the divine rhythm within you. In this rhythm, you no longer confuse activity with purpose. You start to understand that divine alignment produces more through calm than chaos ever could. This season of change brings with it a deep, almost holy slowness. Not stagnation, but intentional movement. The kind of pace that allows you to notice the sunlight on your hands, the tone of a friend's voice, the quiet wisdom in silence. You begin to live with attentiveness, as though each moment carries sacred weight, and in truth it does. Every breath becomes an acknowledgement of presence, every decision an act of trust, every silence a communion. In the middle of this transformation, the Spirit whispers truths you had forgotten. He reminds you that strength was never about endurance alone, it was about awareness. That joy is not the absence of pain, but the recognition of grace within it. That rest is not retreat, but renewal. You begin to live from these truths, and they become your quiet theology, not written in doctrine, but inscribed upon your daily living. As you walk through this season, you will encounter resistance from the world that values speed over depth, volume over meaning. You may feel the pressure to revert, to prove your relevance through constant movement. But this is where your transformation will shine brightest. Your stillness will stand as testimony that peace is not passivity, it is power restrained, wisdom in motion. You will show that being led by the Spirit produces results no amount of striving could ever create. In time, you will see how divine alignment reorders everything. Doors open without effort. Relationships form without agenda. Answers appear in moments of silence rather than in restless searching. You will come to understand that this transformation is not temporary, it is foundational. You are learning the art of partnership, not just with others, but with divine rhythm itself. Every step you take from now on will be guided, purposeful, and free of unnecessary weight. The Spirit is not leading you toward escape, but toward embodiment, to live fully present in the world, yet untouched by its chaos, to face difficulty with calm assurance, to move with grace where once you hurried in fear. This is profound change, not visible spectacle, but the quiet evolution of your inner life into peace. And in that peace, you discover the truth. You were never meant to carry the world. You were meant to walk through it, steady and whole, guided by the one who walks within you. The foundation of steadfast love is being revealed to you now, not as a comforting phrase, but as a living, breathing truth that anchors every fiber of your being. You have known love in many forms before, the kind that fades, the kind that disappoints, the kind that requires you to prove yourself worthy. But what you are being invited into now is entirely different. This love does not waver with mood or condition. It is not fragile, and it cannot be withdrawn. It is steady, constant, and beyond the reach of circumstance. It is divine, and it has held you all along. You are learning that this love is not something to chase. It is not found in the approval of others or in the outcomes you achieve. It has been surrounding you quietly, like air unnoticed until you slow down enough to breathe deeply. When you do, you realize that it has been sustaining you even through the moments when you felt unworthy or unseen. This realization is the beginning of wisdom, that your foundation has never been your own strength, but an unchanging affection that has outlasted every storm. There will be times when you forget this, moments when the world's noise grows loud again, when doubt shadows your confidence. Yet even then, love remains. It does not scold you for forgetting. It simply waits, patient as sunrise. When you return your attention to it, you discover it has not moved an inch. It was never dependent on your awareness. It was always there, holding you through loss, through failure, through the silence when prayers felt unanswered. This love is your constant, your home, your shelter. You are beginning to see your life through this new lens that even in hardship, love has been at work. The seasons that once seemed wasted now reveal their hidden purpose. The nights when you felt abandoned were the very moments when unseen hands held you the closest. The disappointments that once seemed cruel were actually redirections, turning you from paths that would have broken you. The steadfast love that sustains you is not sentimental, it is strategic. It sees the entire landscape when you can only see the valley before you. This love has allowed certain doors to close so that better ones could open. It has protected you from what you thought you wanted, because it knew what your soul truly needed. It has remained faithful when you were faithless. It has been your quiet guardian when you mistook silence for absence. And now, as your perception clears, you begin to trace its fingerprints over your story, subtle, constant, unmistakable. You begin to trust more easily, not because life has become simpler, but because love has proven itself stronger than your fears. You realize that steadfastness does not mean avoidance of difficulty. It means endurance through it. Love is not afraid of your questions. It is not offended by your confusion. When you wrestle, it does not retreat. When you falter, it does not condemn. Instead, it reminds you gently that the foundation remains secure beneath your trembling. It whispers, "You are safe, you are seen, you are still mine." As this truth settles in, your faith begins to shift from desperation to assurance. You stop pleading for rescue and start trusting in presence. You begin to understand that being held does not always mean being delivered immediately. Sometimes it means being sustained while you walk through what refines you. You discover strength you didn't know you possessed, not because you became tougher, but because love itself became your strength. You no longer depend solely on outcomes for peace. You depend on the one who walks beside you in every outcome. This foundation of love also transforms your relationships. When you no longer seek validation from others, you begin to love them more freely. You are less reactive, less defensive, less entangled in the need to be understood. You extend grace more easily, because you know what it means to receive it. You forgive without resentment, not because you excuse wrongdoing, but because you refuse to carry the poison of bitterness. Love teaches you boundaries, but it also teaches you compassion, a compassion that restores without losing discernment. The steadfast love within you becomes your mirror. When you look at yourself now, you no longer see a collection of mistakes or missed opportunities. You see someone who was carried, shaped, and sustained. You see evidence of divine care written across every scar. The same love that met you in weakness now flows through you as quiet confidence. It informs your choices, your posture, your tone. Even in chaos, you find you do not crumble as before. You have built your house upon something immovable. And yet, this foundation is not static. It breathes with you. It moves with your growth. As you continue walking, you will find that love expands your understanding of purpose. You will begin to notice how this foundation supports not just your survival, but your calling. The love that sustains you privately now begins to express itself publicly, through your words, Through your patience, through your steady presence, others will feel the security that steadiness brings. Without effort, you become a refuge for others, a living demonstration of the peace you have received. When the world trembles, when injustice rises, when systems fail, when fear spreads, you will remain centered, not because you ignore the pain, but because you draw from a deeper well. The steadfast love beneath you becomes a force through you. It teaches you how to move with both empathy and courage, to act with conviction but without hatred, to speak truth that restores rather than divides. This is the quiet power of love made mature. It does not shout, yet it changes everything it touches. As you continue to walk in this awareness, you will see that even the most difficult seasons become fertile ground for goodness. The love that upholds you does not waste a single tear. Every moment of confusion becomes a teacher. Every detour hides a gift. And when you look back, you will not only see what was hard, you will see how perfectly you were held. You will recognize that steadfastness was never about standing still. It was about being carried. So let this truth take root in you fully. You are held by a love that has no end. It will not abandon you when you falter. It will not waver when you doubt. It will not demand perfection, only presence. Let that awareness become your refuge. Let it quiet the noise within you. Let it remind you that you do not need to secure yourself. You are already secured. From this place, walk forward with calm assurance. The ground beneath you is not shifting sand. It is steady, eternal, and it is enough. You are learning now how to walk without fear, not because the world has become softer, but because your trust has grown deeper. Fear no longer commands your steps as it once did. It may still whisper, but it no longer decides your direction. You have begun to recognize that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward in its presence. This realization has become a quiet revolution within you. What once caused you to shrink back now becomes an invitation to stand firm in peace. The divine presence that has steadied you through shadow now begins to teach you how to walk through uncertainty with confidence. There was a time when you believed safety meant control. If you could plan every detail, anticipate every outcome, you could guard yourself from disappointment. But now, through patient guidance, you are learning that control is not safety. Trust is. The one who has walked with you through every valley has not changed, and the same strength that held you then holds you now. You do not need to know every answer before taking the next step. The path will unfold as you move, and light will appear for the distance you need to see. You are being trained in the art of holy patience, acting when prompted, resting when told, trusting that timing itself is sacred. The fear that once drove your urgency begins to lose its power. You find that the quieter you become, the clearer your discernment grows. Fear thrives in noise, but faith flourishes in silence. This does not mean you will never face hardship again. Life will continue to present challenges, but they will no longer shake your foundation. You will respond differently now. When disappointment comes, you will pause instead of panic. When uncertainty clouds your way, you will listen instead of rushing. The spirit within you will remind you of past deliverance, the countless unseen interventions that kept you upright when you thought you would collapse. Remembering them will become your strength. Gratitude will become your defense against dread. You are realizing that divine protection does not always mean being spared from difficulty. Sometimes it means being preserved through it. It means emerging from the storm not untouched but unbroken. The strength that grows in those places is not the brittle strength of self-reliance. It is the quiet resilience of one who knows they are never alone. You're learning that the presence walking beside you is more powerful than any threat ahead of you. This realization changes everything about how you move through the world. Let the truth of mercy settle into your bones. It is fresh every morning, not recycled, not conditional, not dependent on your performance. You are never too far gone, never too late, never too diminished to receive it. Divine mercy meets you precisely where you are, washing over your regrets and softening the harshness of your self-judgment. It does not erase the past, it redeems it. Every misstep becomes part of the path. Every detour becomes a doorway. You no longer need to fear what was, because love has rewritten your history in grace. This understanding begins to shape how you see others as well. When you no longer live afraid of condemnation, you stop condemning others. When you stop seeing yourself through fear, you begin to see everyone through compassion. You become slower to judge, quicker to listen, gentler in your words. You realize that people act from the level of peace they've found, and many have found none. Your steadiness becomes a quiet invitation for them to rest too. In your calm, they glimpse a strength not of this world. As this confidence deepens, fear's disguises become easier to recognize. You see how it tries to masquerade as caution, how it hides beneath perfectionism or busyness. It tells you that constant activity is safety, that vigilance is wisdom, that rest is risky. But now you can tell the difference. True discernment no longer feels anxious, it feels clear. True responsibility no longer feels heavy, it feels guided. You begin to live from this lighter space where decisions come from peace rather than panic. There will still be moments when fear knocks. It may come suddenly, in an unexpected loss, a harsh word, an unforeseen change. When it does, do not resist it with force. Welcome it with awareness. Acknowledge it as part of the human experience, but do not give it the power to interpret reality. Instead, return your focus to presence. Breathe. Remember, every breath you take is evidence that love sustains you. That truth is greater than any imagined threat. Fear can visit, but it cannot stay where peace is invited. As you continue walking in this new rhythm, you will notice something miraculous. Opportunities come not from striving, but from alignment. Where you once forced progress, grace now creates openings. Where you once chased approval, favor now meets you. What others call coincidence, you will know as orchestration. The path clears not because you pushed harder, but because you trusted deeper, and that trust becomes your testimony. Do not be alarmed if others misunderstand your calm. Some will mistake it for complacency. Others may question your slower pace, unable to comprehend that stillness can coexist with purpose. Yet, you will not need to explain yourself. The fruit of your life will speak. The clarity of your choices, the peace that follows your presence, the quiet authority in your words. These will reveal the difference between a person driven by fear and one led by faith. You will find that even your body begins to mirror this peace. The constant tension once stored in your shoulders, your breath, your heartbeat begins to ease. You inhabit your life differently now. You take up space without apology, yet without demand. You move with quiet confidence, carrying assurance like fragrance. This is what it means to walk without fear, to live aware of both your fragility and your protection, to know that even when you fall into grace. And when the world trembles, as it will, you will not. You will feel compassion, not panic, steadiness, not paralysis. You will know how to be still in the storm, because the storm no longer defines your inner weather. You will walk through dark valleys with a lifted head, knowing that light is not somewhere ahead. It is within you, unwavering and divine. You are guided, sustained, and protected, not because of what you do, but because of who walks beside you. So, continue forward, my beloved. Let your trust be your lamp, your peace your armor. Walk not as one who hopes for safety, but as one who already possesses it. You are surrounded, upheld, and fortified by a presence that cannot fail. Fear may call your name, but you no longer answer. You know whose voice leads you now. Every step is secure. Every breath is grace. You are free. You are stepping now into the freedom that forgiveness and true worth bring, the release from burdens you carried so long you forgot how heavy they were. This is not the shallow forgiveness that merely excuses the past. It is a deep, spiritual unbinding, a return to your natural state of openness. You are learning that to forgive is not to forget nor to condone. It is to release your identity from what was done by others or by yourself. It is to look at the wound and say, "You no longer define me." For years, you may have mistaken guilt for conscience. You believed that self-condemnation was humility, that constant regret was proof of sincerity. But now, light has entered that misunderstanding. You can see that guilt was never meant to be a dwelling place, only a doorway. It alerts you that something needs to be healed, then invites you to step through into restoration. Yet, many linger there, believing their shame honors the past. You have done that too. But now you know, staying in regret dishonors grace. True humility is not wallowing in what was, it is receiving what is offered. You have been forgiven, completely, not partially, not conditionally. The same divine love that has carried you this far does not hold records of your failures. The scorecard you still consult was written only by human hands. Love never needed it. When you truly let this truth settle, the air in your chest changes. You begin to breathe differently, not shallowly, as one braced for punishment, but deeply, as one accepted without qualification. This freedom is not careless. It is holy. It changes how you see others because it changes how you see yourself. When you no longer live under the shadow of guilt, you stop projecting it onto those around you. You become slower to assume harm, quicker to extend grace. You discover that compassion and strength are not opposites. They are partners. The gentleness you extend to others mirrors the gentleness you have finally begun to show yourself. Forgiveness also reshapes your boundaries. It gives you permission to step away from relationships that demand your exhaustion as proof of loyalty. You begin to recognize that love without self-respect is not love, it is captivity dressed in kindness. And you are not here to live captive. Forgiveness does not require that you remain in every place where you've been hurt. It requires that you release resentment so your spirit can move freely again. You learn to say, "I bless you, but I must go." And when you walk away, you do not carry bitterness, only peace. You're beginning to understand the difference between guilt and responsibility. Guilt says, "I am bad." Responsibility says, "I can do better." The former chains you, the latter frees you. When you operate from responsibility rather than guilt, growth becomes possible again. You stop punishing yourself for being human. You realize that error was never a disqualification. It was a classroom. You begin to see that every mistake you've made, the sharp word, the wrong turn, the delay, has been woven into your becoming. And with that recognition comes a new dignity. You walk taller, not in arrogance but in wholeness. You no longer apologize for existing, for having needs, for setting boundaries. You do not measure your worth against others, nor against yesterday's version of you. You finally understand that worth is not a variable. It does not rise with success or fall with failure. Worth simply is. It was given to you before you took your first breath and remains unchanged by all you've done since. This revelation alters how you move through the world. You begin to choose rest without guilt, joy without justification, stillness without explanation. The need to explain your peace fades away. You learn that you are not responsible for others' understanding of your calm. Those who live in chaos may find your composure unsettling. Let them. Your peace is not rebellion. It is testimony. You no longer perform wellness. You live it. From this place of inner clarity, you start to love differently. Not to earn, but to overflow. You extend kindness not from depletion, but from abundance. You serve not out of obligation, but out of gratitude. Your compassion no longer bends into martyrdom. It becomes strong and clear-eyed. You are learning that healthy love sometimes says no, that forgiveness sometimes means stepping back, that caring for others must include caring for the vessel through which that care flows yourself. As you continue to embrace this freedom, you begin to feel lighter. The emotional weight that once clung to your decisions loosens. You laugh more easily, even at small things. You find beauty in places you once overlooked. The world has not changed, your vision has. You are no longer looking through the lens of insufficiency, but through the clarity of grace. You are also learning how to handle praise and criticism alike with peace. Praise no longer intoxicates you. Criticism no longer devastates you. You take what is useful and let the rest fall away. You understand that others' perceptions of you are reflections of their own state of being, not measurements of your value. You stop giving power to every opinion. You begin to realize that staying true to your inner peace is worth more than pleasing anyone. In this freedom, you also reclaim joy, the pure, quiet kind that doesn't depend on circumstance. You wake in the morning without the tightness of dread. You find yourself humming without realizing it. Even mundane tasks hold calm satisfaction because you are no longer performing them to prove anything. Joy has become your natural state again, the kind that children know before the world teaches them to strive. This is what restoration feels like. Simplicity returning after years of complication. Forgiveness opens the final door, the one leading to gentleness. Not weakness, but sacred softness. You are rediscovering that gentleness is the truest mark of strength. Anyone can raise their voice. Only those rooted in peace can remain calm. You begin to treat your own heart with tenderness, refusing to rush your healing, refusing to measure progress by speed. The world may still push for urgency, but you move now by the rhythm of peace. This gentleness begins to guide all your interactions. You become a safe place for others. Your presence soothes without effort. Your calm steadies without words. You have learned that to be whole is not to be without scar, it is to carry scars without shame. Your story no longer embarrasses you, it empowers you. Each wound you have forgiven becomes a window through which light shines more brightly. And so you walk forward in this new freedom, not performing, not proving, simply being. You are not striving to earn peace, you are living from it. You are not begging for acceptance, you are breathing it. The false weight of guilt has lifted, and in its place stands a quiet assurance. I am loved, I am forgiven, I am enough. Carry this truth gently. As one carries a sacred flame, it will illuminate everything you touch. Let your freedom be contagious. Let your gentleness be strength. Let your forgiveness be your legacy. You are no longer bound by what was. You are now defined by the peace of what is. You are living now from the center of peace, not reaching for it, not rehearsing it, but embodying it. This peace is not the fleeting kind that depends on quiet surroundings or cooperative days. It is the deeper stillness that remains steady even when life sways. You have cultivated it, not by avoidance, but by learning to face every storm without losing your inner anchor. What once stirred panic now elicits a quiet breath. You have learned that peace is not the absence of challenge, it is the presence of wholeness within it. You rise each day differently now. Your first thoughts are not frantic lists or lingering worries. They are simple, grounded acknowledgments. I am here. I am held. I am safe. You begin to understand that peace is not something to chase, it is the ground you stand on. Every moment becomes a chance to return to it through breath, through silence, through gratitude. You live as one who has remembered their true home. In this state, your decisions begin to flow effortlessly. You no longer labor over every choice, fearing the wrong turn. You sense direction not through anxiety but through clarity. When you feel unsettled, you pause, listen, and wait for peace to return before moving forward. You are learning to trust that peace itself is the compass when it departs. It is not punishment, it is redirection. Every detour now becomes a conversation between your spirit and divine wisdom. You do not have to rush the answer, it will always come. The outer world, with its endless demands, continues its noise, but it no longer defines your inner rhythm. You respond to situations now rather than react to them. You know when to engage and when to withdraw, when to speak and when silence will speak louder. This discernment does not come from calculation but from communion. The spirit within you moves in subtle currents, guiding your tone, your timing, your tenderness. You walk in alignment, not striving to keep up, but allowing divine timing to carry you forward with grace. You notice the beauty in small things again, the sound of morning rain, the way sunlight filters through your window, the laughter of a passing stranger. They no longer fade into background noise. They are reminders that peace is everywhere when you slow enough to see it. The world has not changed. Your pace has. Your slower rhythm makes room for wonder. And wonder, you realize, is a form of worship, a reverence for the quiet presence that fills all things. This peace is resilient. It does not shatter when conflict arises. It bends, it breathes, it endures. You no longer see tension as failure, but as an opportunity to apply what you've learned. When stress visits, you meet it with compassion instead of resistance. You ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" And often the lesson is not about fixing something outside you, but about deepening trust within you. In this way, every challenge becomes an invitation to return to your center. You begin to notice that people respond differently to you now. They slow down in your presence without realizing why. Conversations feel easier, more genuine. You no longer try to prove your insight, you simply listen, and your listening itself becomes healing. You are embodying peace, and peace has its own language, one that transcends explanation. You find yourself offering comfort through tone rather than advice, through your calm rather than your words. This quiet influence touches more lives than all your striving ever could. The way you work transforms too. You no longer chase productivity as a sign of worth. You work steadily, mindfully, and with care. You give your best without forcing the outcome. You take breaks without guilt. You let unfinished things rest without anxiety. Because now you know the peace you protect in your heart matters more than any task completed in tension. You have learned that nothing truly meaningful is lost when you honor your limits. You are building not just results, but sustainability. Your relationships also begin to mirror this balance. You are no longer drawn to chaos disguised as passion. You no longer confuse intensity with connection. You choose people who nurture, not drain, who value your peace rather than compete with it. And you bring that same peace to them. You no longer demand perfection, nor do you overextend to fix brokenness. You meet others where they are, offering presence instead of solutions. In this mutual calm, love becomes something steady, not performative, something that builds, not burns. This state of peace does not make you passive. On the contrary, it gives you clarity to act decisively when action is needed. When injustice rises, your calm becomes courage. When someone is in pain, your stillness becomes safety. When chaos erupts, your composure becomes leadership. You are not avoiding the world's noise. You are walking through it without absorbing it. You have become a vessel of equilibrium in a culture of urgency, a reminder that true power does not shout, it steadies. You are now deeply aware that peace is both privilege and responsibility. It is not to be hoarded, but to be shared. The more you rest in it, the more you naturally extend it to others through kindness, patience, humility. You begin to see how even a single moment of gentleness can shift an entire atmosphere. When you approach a tense situation with calm, it softens. When you listen without judgment, hearts open. Peace multiplies when lived. It echoes through every space you inhabit. And still, there will be moments when old patterns whisper the urge to overthink, to fix, to perform. When that happens, you smile, remembering. Those patterns once kept you safe when you didn't know another way. You thank them for their service, and you let them go. You return to your breath, to your center, to the awareness that you are already whole. The Holy Spirit will meet you there, always not to scold, but to remind you, you are here, you are free, you are enough. From this inner stillness, you begin to see time differently. You no longer measure your days by accomplishment, but by alignment. A quiet day spent in awareness feels as fruitful as a busy one spent achieving. You sense divine presence in ordinary rhythms, in washing dishes, in walking outside, in the pause between sentences. Everything, when seen through peace, becomes sacred. You are learning that heaven is not distant. It is discovered in awareness. The more you live from this center, the more unshakable you become. Situations that once felt threatening now seem temporary. The fear of what if fades, replaced by the trust of even if. Even if things change, even if losses come, even if the path grows uncertain, you remain. You rest in the certainty that nothing can remove what has been established within you. Your peace is not fragile. It is eternal in nature, rooted in the presence that sustains all things. So walk now as one who carries this awareness. Let your life be a quiet offering, a daily demonstration that peace is possible even here, even now. You no longer chase completeness, you radiate it. You no longer wait for calm. You are the calm. Wherever you go, you will bring order without striving, grace without effort, love without condition. This is your truest identity, to live from the center of peace, to breathe harmony into chaos, to show by your very being that wholeness has always been within reach. You are now walking in the eternal wholeness of being, not as a distant aspiration, but as your daily truth. This is not an arrival point, but a continual unfolding of grace that deepens with every breath. You no longer feel divided between the person you were and the person you are becoming. The fragments that once warred within you have been gathered into a quiet unity. You are whole, not because every question is answered or every wound forgotten, but because your peace no longer depends on resolution. It flows from presence, from the unshakable knowing that you are complete. The journey has changed your gait. You walk slower, but with more certainty. You carry yourself with the quiet dignity of one who no longer fears collapse, for you know that even in falling, you fall into love. Every step is guided, every pause purposeful. You no longer rush to arrive. You know that the destination is within each moment. What once felt like waiting now feels like communion, a continuous dialogue between your spirit and the divine rhythm that sustains all things. From this wholeness, life feels lighter. You move through spaces without trying to control how others perceive you. Approval has lost its grip, and criticism no longer pierces as it once did. You see now that people's opinions are fleeting shadows cast on your light, not measures of your worth. You are no longer ruled by reaction. You are moved by awareness. This is the quiet power of wholeness. You become steady in a world addicted to volatility. And because you are steady, you can carry others without losing yourself. You listen deeply without absorbing pain. You offer comfort without depletion. You give freely because your source is infinite. You no longer love to be loved. You love because you are love. This is the great reversal, the moment when your giving ceases to cost you and starts to expand you. You begin to understand what it means to be a vessel, to pour out without fear of emptiness, because what flows through you is replenished by divine presence itself. You see beauty now where others see burden. The mundane becomes sacred, the quiet morning coffee, the light through a window, the steady rhythm of breath. These moments are not fillers between the real parts of life. They are life. Each simple act becomes an altar, each encounter an opportunity for grace to move. You are not separate from holiness anymore. It has taken up residence in your ordinary, and because you recognize it, you can no longer live unaware. Everything is illuminated. When challenges arise, you meet them differently. You no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" But, "What is this revealing in me?" Every difficulty becomes an unveiling, every tension an invitation to return to peace. You begin to sense how divine timing threads even through disruption. What once felt like loss now reveals itself as preparation. You no longer panic when something leaves. You bless it, knowing that whatever departs creates room for what is aligned to arrive. You are learning the rare art of non-resistance, not passivity, but cooperation with grace. You are also beginning to see the truth about strength. It was never about endurance alone, but about alignment. True strength is not in holding tight, but in letting go at the right moment. It is not in speaking louder, but in knowing when silence carries more weight. You embody this strength now, calm, grounded, and unafraid of gentleness. Your composure is your power. Your stillness is your testimony. It tells the world that peace is not fragile, but fierce in its steadiness. You have become an embodiment of quiet confidence, not the kind that seeks attention, but the kind that commands it naturally. Wherever you go, the atmosphere shifts. Tension softens. People breathe easier. Not because you try to change them, but because peace recognizes peace. You are a living mirror, reflecting back to others the calm they have forgotten they possess. Your mere presence becomes a ministry, silent, sincere, transformative. Oh, there will be moments when old echoes return, faint whispers of fear, of striving, of self-doubt. Do not resist them with frustration. Let them come, let them pass. They are proof of the distance you've traveled, remnants of a language you no longer speak. You can listen without believing, remember without reliving. This is maturity. To know that peace does not mean the absence of disturbance, but the ability to remain whole within it. You now have that capacity. It is your inheritance and your calling. From this wholeness flows creativity, clarity, and compassion. Your thoughts are unhurried, your words intentional. You act not from pressure but from purpose. You notice that what you do now carries lasting impact, not because it is grand, but because it is pure. Wholeness makes even the smallest act potent. A kind word, a gentle touch, a moment of genuine listening, these ripple farther than you will ever know. You are living proof that healing within one life can heal the world around it. As you continue to walk, you realize that the divine does not drive you forward with urgency. It accompanies you. The pace of heaven is unhurried. There is no competition in grace. You no longer feel behind, because you understand that nothing essential can be missed. The timing of your journey has been exact. Every pause is important as every movement. You begin to live with trust instead of tension, gratitude instead of grasping. What you once called delay, you now call preparation. In this state, even silence feels full. You find joy in being unseen, peace in doing nothing, fulfillment in existing as you are. You are free from the compulsion to prove, to compare, to control. You move in harmony with what is. And when challenges come, because they still will, you no longer brace yourself against them. You greet them as guests, knowing they carry wisdom. You have learned that wholeness does not protect you from life. It equips you to live it fully. Now, as you look back, you can see the full arc of your becoming. The pain that once felt senseless now reveals its hidden logic. The closed doors, the detours, the delays, all were threads in a tapestry too vast to see until now. You were never lost. You were being led. You were never broken. You were being refined. You were never forgotten. You were being prepared. The cycles that once trapped you have completed their course, and you have emerged not hardened, but softened, resilient, and radiant. You stand now as one reborn in awareness. The world around you has not changed, but your sight has. You no longer divide life into sacred and ordinary. It is all sacred. You no longer separate yourself from grace. You are its expression. You move through each day as both participant and witness, letting divine presence work through your hands, your words, your stillness. You live from fullness, and that fullness spills naturally into everything you touch. Carry this truth forward. You are not waiting for peace. You are peace. You are not striving for wholeness. You are the embodiment of it. Let your very existence testify that healing is possible, that calm can endure, that love never fails. Wherever you go, carry gentleness like a flame, steady, quiet, unwavering. The world will feel it even when words are absent. You've become what you sought all along, a living reflection of divine completeness. So walk on, my beloved, unhurried, unafraid, fully awake. Walk as one who belongs completely, who carries heaven in their breath and light in their eyes. You have not reached the end of the journey. You have stepped into its eternal rhythm. Every step now is grace unfolding. Every moment a continuation of love's story written through your life. You are whole. You are safe. You are free. And you will never again forget who you truly are.